Good afternoon, everybody. October the 29th, Xavier Aguiar, Mike Testa here on another edition of The Gurus. Before we get started, Mike's kind of on a high right now. He traveled to Atlanta this weekend to see his Dolphins get a massive win. The Blue Jays just tied up the World Series. Mike, you have to be feeling pretty good about things.
The massive win. I don't know if it's a massive win. It gets us from 1-6 to 2-6. But yes, I did go down to Atlanta and watch a very well played football game by the Dolphins, believe it or not, at 1-6. And then the Blue Jays thing is the actual high I'm on right now. I mean, that was a heck of a bounce back last night to get the series tied up at 2 apiece. We got a best of 3 World Series right now.
I didn't even include the Heat in the FBI indictment bowl, if you will. Yes, they got a massive win as well. Yes. So your teams are just really cooking. If only Clemson could do anything right now.
That would be the kicker right there. Clemson, if they can just score, that would be really nice. But the Heat, we talked about it. Remember in our over-under East Conference podcast, we were like, well, can the Heat actually score? Did anyone see Jaime Jaquez 20 points a game on really good efficiency happening? I don't know, but the scoring is there right now. I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but yeah,
it's still early, but a good start for the Heat over. So
good first week, one weekend, we're good. Yeah.
For fans of the program, they'll remember our pilot episode was NFL preseason superlatives. We did a massive draft. It was a great time, and I said during that episode we would revisit that, and here we are revisiting that. So, forewarning, we are not doing the exact same categories because it doesn't exactly line up because we were doing stuff that would apply early in the season and season-long things. Now we're in the middle of the season, kind of retrospectively looking backwards. So we have new categories. We will return to some old ones at the very, very end and see how we're doing there. But I just want to get started here because we love superlatives. It's a gimmick that we're accustomed to here. The first one that Mike struggled with right off the bat, which I did think is funny. The storyline way past its shelf life. Mike, tell me why you couldn't even come up with one right now.
Because there's really not much happening. I mean, what is the storyline that's like the storyline of the season has been the Indianapolis Colts, but that one is still going. We're not even past that shelf life yet. So there's really been no storylines in the NFL right now. It's kind of been a dull. I mean, I don't know if you watched this past Sunday's week of games. I know we were still on our NBA high. Was that the worst Sunday ever from like a competitive standpoint? I believe there was one score game in the NFL that entire week. It was the Jets and Bengals, I believe. So there was just not a lot of good football, and the storylines kind of lacked because of it. I mean, there wasn't really anything that we were talking about besides, usually the Cowboys, the Chiefs, they lead the media segments, but nothing really happened. The Chiefs played a really boring Monday night game the other night. Dallas got their doors blown off. And nothing's really been happening in the last couple of weeks. There's been a lot of backup quarterbacks. I mean, I don't know if you're into the Carson Wentz, Marcus Mariota, Kirk Cousins thing. Those guys played this last week. But not a lot of great storylines for me. So I was really struggling with this one because I was like, really, what is the big storylines that are past its shelf life? I really couldn't find any.
We talked about last year before we had this program about how the NFL was kind of in a state of flux, despite the league raking in all this money and having so much attention. The product on the field was kind of lacking, and the only person that kind of vindicated us was Tom Brady and some of these former athletes that kept talking about it. But obviously, when Brady says it, there's going to be a pocket of fans that are kind of like, oh, this is an old man yelling at crowds. But at the same time, Brady just played. He literally was just in the league 5 years ago, less than 5 years ago, actually. So it's one of these things where if you look at it, he has a gripe. This is someone I would listen to on this subject, and it's not just us as fans kind of sick of it. But I completely agree with you. I think the product, the good teams are playing fine. Like, it's fine ball. We'll get into kind of the Jekyll and Hyde of it a bit later. But it's just on a game-to-game basis, it's really poor right now. And even Monday Night Football, I mean, I watched it because I'm a Mariota guy. I went to the University of Oregon. But even then, it was, I never felt like his team was giving him a great chance to win that game. They felt totally outmatched. And even as a backup quarterback, I thought he played fine until the end when it felt like he just threw a pick to get out of there. But I can't between the injuries at key positions, of course, quarterback being the most notable, and just kind of the gap in the league. It feels like it's never been wider between the great teams and the bad teams.
Really bad teams.
I'm a New England fan, and they're 6-2 right now. I think they're closer to like a 500 team than a 6-2 team, but at the same time, with the way the league is going, they deserve to be 6-2, if not 7-1. They're taking care of these awful teams. I just can't believe the gap. The one I put here was the entire Jets season, just to play along with the game here.
Okay, yeah.
I just can't deal with the drama with the Jets, a team that is pitiful, that just had their first win of the season. Everything from Woody Johnson, their owner, calling out Justin Fields for his ineptitude at completing a forwards pass, to these weird Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn parallels that are still going on because of how Dan Campbell started his tenure in Detroit.
They were like
Aaron Glenn's still kind of getting that benefit of the doubt, despite arguably some of the most ridiculous game planning, conservatism throughout a game I've ever seen.
Decisions. Oh my God.
I mean, everyone will point to the Denver game where the lack of aggressiveness was just apparent, but it's just every week. Even that Miami game, I thought the Jets played better that entire game. Yeah. And it was just little things. Obviously, there was a fumble near the goal line. That didn't help. But there's just little things throughout the game where it really cost the Jets wins. And I think this Jets team, again, is closer to a 2-3 win team. They have one right now. A lot of that falls on the coach. And I just can't do this tortured Jets thing any longer. Like, it's their own fault. We don't need to feel bad for the fans. We don't need to feel bad for the team. I'm over all of that. It's just what it is. They need a dumpster fire team in the NFL every year, and the Jets, more often than not, fit the bill. And we're here again. And I just don't need to pretend that anything's interesting around this franchise with them kind of being on the bottom of a massive media market. I just don't care. And part of that maybe is the Boston/New England bias that I possess.
A little bit.
But I just think, seriously, how much longer can we do the feel bad for the Jets thing? It's just getting old, in my opinion. And it's not just the years of dismay about it. It's also this kind of this look at me attitude that they possess. Like we're the plucky underdogs. This is the year.
You should root for us.
Yeah, we have this hardworking ethos. It's going to work out for us eventually. It's just such a facade to me, and I can't deal with it anymore.
No, I think that they probably beat the Panthers as well. To go back to your point about if they just had a better coach, maybe they beat the Dolphins, maybe they beat the Panthers. So yeah, they're probably closer to a 2 or 3 win team than they are 0-8, or what are they now, 1-7? But I just don't really care. I don't feel bad. Bad ownership, bad teams tend to do this. So and the fan base too. I really can't feel bad for the fan base because everything. Whenever the Jets got Aaron Rodgers, it was like Super Bowl, here we come. They hadn't been to a playoff game in like 13 years when they got him. So it was this very entitled, like, hey, this is the team to root for this year. If you want to root for a fan base that's had a lot of hardships and that's going to overcome, we just got Aaron Rodgers at age 40. We're going to do it. I almost feel bad for the Browns more than I do the Jets, even though they've made their own mess themselves. So they're going to lay in it. It's just like bad teams kind of, they make their bed and then they lay in it and then they expect everybody to kind of feel bad for them.
There's a certain egotistical element of the Jets that the Browns just don't have. And it's so weird to me for such a pitiful franchise that they have it. I guess that's what annoys me more than anything. They kind of puff their chest out despite them being the laughingstock of sports for the better part of the last 2 decades.
Yeah, I've never seen the Cleveland Browns fan necessarily puff their chest out, even though I believe they've had more winning seasons than the last half decade than the Jets have. Like they've been kind of competitive, made the playoffs 2 times in the last 5 years. But yeah, the Jets have this like entitlement about them, and then this Aaron Glenn, Dan Campbell comparisons. Like I'll never get over that. I know that and Dan Campbell started 0-10-1 in his first year in Detroit and turned it on late. I just can't really see this. I mean, this Jets team is a total mess. They're a total mess. And I don't know if Aaron Glenn is closer to a one and done Gerard Mayo type of thing than he is a Dan Campbell, but I certainly don't think he's Dan Campbell. Like maybe it's somewhere in between, but it looks like it's more closer to a one and done awful Jets here. They're going to retool, even though I know Woody Johnson really likes him to the point where he literally called out Justin Fields' inability to throw a forward pass. It's like, well, who can coach with a guy like that? He basically literally just called out Justin Fields and kind of, sided with the coach there because I think he likes Aaron Glenn. Obviously, Aaron Glenn's a former Jet. So of course they have a lot of respect in the higher ups for Aaron Glenn, but the Jets are a mess. And I think, a large portion of it probably does fall on Aaron Glenn and that coaching staff. I mean, they're not good, but they have like some talented players. They shouldn't be 1-7 with the Saints and the Titans.
I think for his history with the team, he's going to get another year. Correct. But if I were Woody Johnson, I shiver to think about that. But if I were in that position, I would axe Glenn. It's just clearly not working. I think oftentimes the NFL moves too close to European soccer at this point, where it's always the coach's fault. It's always you need a coaching upheaval. It's never the roster's fault. It's never the quarterback's fault. We've moved into that territory. But in this situation, from what I've seen, I think it's justified.
We do that in the NBA too, by the way. We always blame the coach. Sometimes justified, but sometimes we just axe the coach because it's not working. Knicks, and sometimes some other teams, but like we just kind of axe the coach because like, well, it's very, soccer, it's very NBA. But this one, I mean, the Jets, we've already spent too much time on the Jets, but I do think Aaron Glenn will probably get another year because he's got favoritism in the league. But I would be hard pressed to imagine that this isn't equally as bad next year because let's be real, the Jets are going to do the exact same thing they've done the last 4 times. This is the 4th cycle now of the we're going to be really bad, bottom out, get a top 2 or 3 pick, draft a quarterback. Darnold was the 3rd pick. Zach Wilson was the 2nd pick. They're probably picking top 3 again this year, and they're probably picking a quarterback again this year. So it's going to be this 3rd time through the order now of picking in the top 3, picking a quarterback, having a second-year head coach. With Darnold, it was second-year head coach Todd Bowles. With Zach Wilson, it was second-year head coach Robert Saleh, I believe, or maybe it was first-year head coach Robert Saleh. I believe they came in together. But now it's probably going to be second-year head coach Aaron Glenn. And I don't have any faith in, I don't love the rookie quarterback gets a defensive coach because I think that kind of stints their year 1 growth. But who knows? I have no faith in the Jets.
How many times do we have to learn that before we stop doing it in the NFL? It feels constant.
The Jets need to learn a lot, evidently, because they've been doing this a lot now. They had Todd Bowles, who was a good defensive coordinator, and is doing a really good job as head coach right now. But it just feels like nothing works for the Jets. Maybe they're just like one of those teams that just keeps, playing in the mud and never is able to get out of there.
Enough about the Jets. I'm already sick of talking about the Jets. What about this guy is in trade rumors? And the way I pitched this to you was thinking about it before the season started, where you were in September, and where things have progressed now that you cannot even believe this guy's name is being mentioned in trade rumors at this point in the season.
Well, to me, it was, and I don't know how legit this is, but Brian Thomas Jr., we're in a fantasy draft together. For people who don't know, we're in a Dynasty league, and Brian Thomas Jr. went very, very high in our Dynasty league. He's a second-year receiver at LSU, had an awesome year with Jacksonville last year with your guy, Mac Jones, throwing the ball for a good portion of the year. And we were like, okay, if this is going to work with Mac Jones, well, when we get a healthy Trevor Lawrence and a new head coach in Liam Cohen, which we saw what he did with the Bucs last year, was a top 5 offense. This is going to be really good for Brian Thomas Jr. and his growth. And now you got Travis Hunter there to possibly take away those double coverages that are going to go his way. And it's been kind of a rough year for Brian Thomas Jr. And apparently the Jags are listening to trade calls for the second-year receiver. Again, I don't know how legit this is, but if you would have told me that 8 weeks ago when he was going super, super high in Dynasty drafts, I mean, literally one of the up-and-coming year 2 receivers, it was talking about like him, Malik Neighbors from that draft class with Marvin Harrison and Rome Odunze. It was like he was the best one of the class last year, him and Malik Neighbors. And now to kind of fast forward 8 weeks later, we're 8 weeks in the season, and the Jaguars offense is really scuffling. I mean, we thought heading into the year, the Jaguars defense would be a serious problem. They're actually kind of fun. I mean, they're not great, but they're taking the ball away at like a ridiculous, unsustainable rate. So they're first in turnovers, but Trevor Lawrence in this passing offense has kind of unfortunately been the weakling of the Jaguars offense, which I did not see coming. I don't think either of us saw coming, but Brian Thomas Jr. has struggled just as much as the quarterback has. And I don't know how legit the actual trade rumors are, but if they're listening to trade calls, that means that he's obviously up for sale. And you can't really put anything past the Jaguars. I mean, heck, this team, they're known for making irrational decisions. I mean, did anyone think on draft night they would trade a future first-round pick? The Jaguars trading their own future first-round picks to move up 2 spots or 3 spots to get a receiver/corner that they're only playing really. They're not even really playing in both ways. I mean, they're kind of doing it both ways. So they're kind of flirting around it, but he's not really this like. They're not using him like a number 2 overall pick like you would trade up a 3 spots to do. Like they're kind of halfway with this. It's not really the way the Jaguars look through 8 weeks. You would not think that they give up their first-round pick to get a guy because they're not really showing him like that. They're not really showcasing him. I mean, he's not even top 5 for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I figured the way they'd be using him, he would be slam dunk to be, winning both of these awards possibly with the way that they were talking about him, with the way that that young GM was talking about Travis Hunter. And it just hasn't really been the case. So to go back to Brian Thomas Jr.'s point, I don't know if they're going to trade him or not, but the fact that they're listening to trade calls 8 weeks later after we were saying this is going to be an awesome year 2 receiver for Jacksonville kind of shocks me.
I never believed the Hunter two-way thing. I just didn't really think it was plausible at the NFL level. Yeah, so I just thought maybe they would put him at whatever spot they needed him more, which I presumed was corner because how the defense looked on paper heading into the season. But it's evident they really do need a wide receiver too, and they played him a little bit more there in their last game in London. He seemed to show out there, so maybe Hunter's on the rise. As for Thomas himself, he went 18th in our Dynasty League. It's a 2-quarterback league, and again, it's only offensive players, but that's an indication of how fans really felt about his level of production going forward, and he's just been terrible. He really has been, and it's been an effort thing with him as well.
Right.
Beyond the drops and just the clunky route running. The effort's been terrible on blocking, and as plays kind of unfold, it's been really disheartening because I had a good grade on Thomas coming into the draft.
Yep.
Last year, I thought he was excellent. I just can't believe he's already fallen out of favor in Jacksonville. I think it might be an attitude thing behind the scenes, the way all the leaves are pointing at this point with him.
There was a little George Pickens to it, right? A little bit of George Pickens.
A whiff of it, yeah. Maybe not as outwardly facing as far as Pickens kind of complaining to the media and being kind of detriment on the field, just getting into fights, saying crazy things, etc. But I do see where you're going with that, yeah. Just would they actually trade him? I'm not sure, but it's at least worth talking about because of how much smoke the last few days has came out around it. If I was a team, he'd be a guy if I could get at a reasonable discount, because seemingly the Jags want to get rid of him. By even entertaining the smoke, that signals to me that they're at least kicking the tires on getting rid of him. If I could trade just a second or a third and get him, again, I don't know how realistic that is. I don't know if you'd easily be outbid. Who knows? But if I can keep my first round pick and get him for a second or a third, even with the concerns, I would do that in a heartbeat just because of the talent upside.
Even if it's a rental, by the way. Even if it's a rental, I still think I would do it. If you're close to a Super Bowl and you believe that that's a difference-making kind of guy, then, I mean, I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, if I'm Buffalo, if I'm New England, if I'm a team that thinks that I can win games in the stretch and try to at least compete with Kansas City, even Indy, I guess if they really want a high-end wide receiver one, if I'm one of those three teams, I'm looking at him. I really am. My guy, not the same caliber of player, but in my mind, I at least thought of him highly regarded, thought he was one of the more underrated players in the league, Chuba Hubbard. It's less about Chuba and more about Rico Dowdle being the second coming of Adrian Peterson. Crazy. It's just apparent when he's in the game, he is in Rico, they're just significantly more potent offense. And when Chuba's in the game, it's shaky. It really is. He doesn't have the same force with his running that he had last year. He's not breaking tackles at the same rate. He just doesn't look as powerful of a runner. And he did get injured, so part of that could be the injury, just, banged up at this point of the year, slow to come back from. But even Dave Canales' quote where he was like, we love Chuba, but the Rico thing's undeniable. And even earlier, before we got on, there was a report, I believe, from Rossini. It was the Panthers don't want to move off of Chuba, but are fielding offers or something along that lines. It seems like they like the person, but the player is really falling out of favor. He's being kind of left behind because of what's going on with Rico. If I'm a team like New England that really needs a running back, they scream out to me as the team most needy of just a back of any kind. I would maybe throw a fifth or sixth their way. I'm sure there's another team, maybe Kansas City. They've been kind of circling another back for a while. Pacheco got hurt on Monday. Hunt, it's really, what are you going to get with him on a week-to-week basis? I think Chuba could go to a better team and maybe recapture what he had last year.
Well, unfortunately, we keep hearing about the Giants buying. The Giants are in, rumors of getting Jacoby Myers, Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave. We know Scadaboo just got hurt for the year, so that's another running back destination. If the Giants are actually trying to do something.
Yeah, and you can see that they didn't really think much of Tracy if immediately after his solid rookie campaign, they got Scad. So I think Chuba would be on the board for them as well, yes.
Yeah, so that's more so. I mean, running back so year to year, you don't really know what you're going to get. It's such a turnover position. But Chuba Hubbard ran for 1,000 yards last year. He was a really good player last year. I think people kind of forgot about that. But I mean, Rico Dowdle also, funny enough, ran for 1,000 yards last year in Dallas. So the Panthers had a nice little 1-2 combo of, hey, they both ran for 1,000 yards, but neither of us really thought they were like, these bell cow backs. But it does seem like Chuba Hubbard, once he got down, Rico Dowdle's taking over the opportunity. He's not going to give it up at this point. So yeah, I mean, Chuba Hubbard's definitely on the trade block at this point, and it's probably not to a fault of his own, but more to Rico Dowdle's, ascension into, like you said, what is it, Adrian Peterson? I mean, no one saw that coming, really. I don't think even Carolina saw that coming. So yeah, that's one where that one I think is a lot more real than Brian Thomas Jr., wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and on the Rico thing, I thought he looked awesome at the end of last year. And we say that with a lot of guys, and sometimes it doesn't carry over, sometimes it does. But the fact that Carolina got him on a discount kind of after the initial wave of free agency was super odd to me. I couldn't believe some of these other teams that could just use a guy in the building, just someone with some juice, passed on him, and Carolina, of all teams, was able to kind of look around and say, no one wants this guy, and then get him at a discount. So good on Carolina for somehow being able to snag Rico in free agency for a great price and make a guy like Chuba expendable.
Yeah, but by the way, you know who didn't want him either? The team that had him, Dallas. They were like, yeah, Rico, we don't want you. We're going to go with Javonte Williams, which that's another one. We had no idea that Javonte Williams would be this good. That just kind of tells you like the shock of running back. It's like the Cowboys didn't want Rico Dowdle, who, as you said, looked good toward the end of last year. The Panthers got him at a very discounted rate after the first wave of free agency. Dallas didn't even want him, and they were a thin position at running back, and they were like, we'll bring in Javonte Williams, who looked really, really bad last year in Denver, and it's I guess it's working. So I mean, who knows? But it just kind of tells you like the running back, no one really knows. I mean, it's a year-to-year thing that we really, to keep track of it every year would be crazy.
It's all about health. It's all about scheme. There's so much that goes into it. It really is hard to track. Here's another thing hard to track too. The underrated dumpster fire, the team that maybe you didn't think they'd be a postseason contender per se, but you would at least think at this point they'd be better than what they've shown.
I thought the Cardinals would win 7 or 8 games this year. I can tell you right now, they're not going to win 7 or 8 games this year. The Cardinals are a total mess. A total mess. They remember when they were 2-0? Felt like a year ago. That was only 5 weeks ago. They beat the Saints and the Panthers pretty convincingly, and they were 2-0. It's like, the Cardinals are pesky. We are halfway through year 2, and we have no idea if Marvin Harrison Jr. is good or not. That's a big issue to me. Like we don't know. Jacoby Brissett, ironically enough, he looked better with Brissett in the last 2 weeks than he did with Kyler Murray. That's another issue. It's like, what do we have at quarterback? Do we even know if Kyler Murray's good? And we're in, year 5, year 6 of Kyler Murray? That's a problem. We got Jonathan Gannon hitting players on the sideline. That's a problem. We got players dropping the ball before the end zone. That's another problem. That cost them a win against the Titans, who only have 1 win. This team is a total disaster. I mean, it's an absolute dumpster fire. But because it's Arizona, no one really talks about it like nationally. Like if this was the Giants, if this was the Jets, I mean, it is the Jets. But if those teams were like this awful, or Dallas, if Dallas was this awful, they would be getting national headlines, Monday morning. First people to talk about it. With Arizona, no one really cares. Plus, their division is so good that they're kind of falling under the radar. We're talking about the Rams, Niners, and Seahawks more than we're talking about the Cardinals for good reason. But Arizona is an absolute nightmare right now. Like this is bad. I did not think they'd be this bad. They were kind of pesky last year. Remember, they had a chance to make the playoffs, and Kyler sold them that game in Carolina, and then they were eliminated the following week against the Rams when they had a chance to still make the playoffs. So they had opportunities last year to kind of win that division, which was wide open. And this year they took a huge step back. And I don't know if Kyler's good, and I don't know if Marvin Harrison's good. And those are supposed to be their franchise cornerstones, are they not?
I've been disenchanted by Arizona since midway through last year. I thought when Kyler came back that he was one of the most fun players in the league. He was just playing loose. Yeah. He was really fun to watch. And then I kind of remembered who Kyler Murray was. And I've said it multiple times. Kyler Murray at his best is one of, if not my favorite players in the league. When he is on, he is so fun to watch. So he scampers around. He has a cannon of an arm. He is a one-of-one athlete.
Yeah.
And if he has it going, it's kind of amazing. It really is. It's an unbelievable viewing experience. But too often than not, his career, it's been this roller coaster of weeks where he just looks totally incompetent. And some of that probably has to do with his height, where it's tough for him to kind of see over the line and hang in the pocket. He always wants to build early. Teams have kind of figured that out at this point. And this offense, especially for Marvin Harrison Jr., needs a little bit more time to kind of work things out. They need longer developing plays. I made this comparison, I believe, a few weeks ago, and I want to bring it up again. Marvin Harrison Jr. reminded me of Jerry Jeudy coming out, where both guys were exceptional route runners, but it took too long for their routes to develop in college. And I thought, at least for Marvin Harrison Jr., that he could clean that up a little bit in the league. I wasn't high on Jeudy. I was a little bit higher on Marvin Harrison Jr., but I at least saw that flaw in his game. And it just hasn't progressed at all. Like, literally at all. And I can't believe that. If anything,
that's shocking.
I thought he would at least be, a 1,000-yard bona fide receiver at this point. I'm not even sure he's there. He's just a talented ball of clay, still trying to figure everything out. I don't know if he's ever going to be a top guy. And I think that's kind of the worst place for them to be with him.
Yeah.
Because if he was great, easy. If he was terrible, easy. He's somewhere in the middle, and that's usually the hardest place to evaluate. And when to move off, when to keep him around. I don't think he's in danger of going anywhere. They wasted too high capital bringing him in. He's going to get all the chances in the world. But I think both him and Kyler are kind of part of the same problem. It's too inconsistent too often. and they can blame everyone they want, but at the end of the day, it's very apparent that they're part of the problem.
Yeah, by the way, to go back to your Judy point, both of those guys won in college at a route running level, but they didn't win like very quickly. They didn't win immediately. And it did take a while for that. But again, it wasn't like anyone cared because it was Ohio State and Alabama, respectively. So it didn't really matter. Like they could, like those routes could take, those could be slow developing plays and they could win on deeper routes. And they were very crisp route runners, no doubt about it. But again, Ohio State and Alabama, that works. At Arizona, that might not work, especially with a guy like Kyler Murray. It's a little different. So that hasn't. It almost feels like they're just not a good marriage. But I don't know who's more at fault. Like I don't know if either of them are just not that good. That could be an option, or if it's just those guys just aren't going to be good together. And maybe it's like a CJ McCollum, Dame Lillard thing, where it's like once they leave each other, maybe you're going to see some success, even though those guys didn't. But I mean, you can make an argument where it's like one of them has to go, but Arizona has no idea which one. And that's the worst place to be because you don't know if it's like, oh well, Marvin Harrison's holding him back, Kyler Murray's holding him back, but together they don't work. We really have no idea, and that's even like the surface level thing. Arizona as a whole is a mess. Like that's their big issue because those are their two most talked about players, but nothing's really going well for Arizona right now. I mean, not even just besides those guys' relationship. I mean, the entire team is a nightmare.
I'm not going to spend too long on mine. It's the Las Vegas Raiders for this category.
Of course.
I heard too many people before the season talk about how frisky this team was going to be, and I was just against it the entire time. Because for me, watching, Geno Smith was a very accurate quarterback in Seattle behind a mediocre to below average offensive line. Yeah. He had a solid run game. He had JSN. He had DK Metcalf. The talent around him was fine. It was just up front that was a little bit shaky. But he was, we'll call it, around a middling quarterback, if not a little bit better than that, with unreal accuracy. Like his ball to chest placement was out of control. He was just accurate as can be. And behind a worse offensive line, another year older, with a rookie running back who we still revere, but he's still a rookie.
Yeah.
And again, less talent around him, even with Brock Bowers there, especially on the outside of Jacoby Myers. It's kind of a who's who.
Yeah, literally who's who.
I wasn't buying it. I just wasn't. And there was this notion out of Vegas that this current iteration of the team was just kind of to get them from point A to point B. If point D is the Super Bowl, all they wanted to do was go from the laughingstock of the league to being like a 6-7 win team, maybe flirting with a playoff berth, being competitive in a, volatile AFC, to put it nicely. They just wanted to go from level 1 to level 2. Well, it turns out that they're still at level 1. And if not, this kind of counts as regression. When you're not able to improve over time, to me, that's regressing because you're kind of setting yourself back again, another year backwards. This team is just terrible. And the defense is frisky enough. I guess if that's what people were talking about, I can attest to that. I think the defense at times looks okay. The offense is an absolute train wreck. It is so bad. And part of that, I think, is on Chip Kelly, who I think took too much of a big leap from going from Ohio State's offensive coordinator position to being the offensive coordinator at Vegas, where obviously at Ohio State, he has the best personnel by far in the country. That's not even arguable. It's true. And then now at Vegas, he has probably bottom 4 or 5 offensive personnel. That, to me, is just too staunch of a leap, regardless of what you think about Chip Kelly's arsenal. And Geno's been probably the worst veteran starting quarterback in the league. Like, out of the young guys and rookies and all that, veterans, he's been the worst, and it's not been that close. Everything about this offense is terrible, and with Brock Bowers being banged up throughout this year, Pete Carroll, I'd be surprised if he lasted another year. Maybe they don't want to admit defeat on it, so maybe he gets another chance to try to turn this around. But he just looks over his head in this position. It just looks like it's too few talented guys on this roster. And all this talk about Tom Brady being in Mark Davis's ear and being this shadow owner and being amazing at this position and kind of figuring out the right way to do it. Well, clearly it doesn't look like the right way to do it because right now Vegas is an absolute dumpster. Their only wins are New England in week 1 against a team with an all-new regime and basically a rookie quarterback. Drake Maye barely played last year, and when he did, he was with the worst supporting cast you can possibly imagine. He didn't take reps in 2024 in training camp either. Drake Maye was basically a rookie in a brand new system week 1. So it's against him and then the Titans. So congratulations, Vegas. Like that's awesome for you. Great. You're going to be picking in the top 5 of the draft. And this idea that Pete was going to get you to a respectable level at this point is laughable.
It's easily regression because, by the way, they were more frisky with Aiden O'Connell in there and Desmond Ritter and Gardner Minshew. So they literally are regressing.
When they could hardly compete a forward pass, they looked like a better football
That's what
team.
I'm saying. And they're paying $30 million a year for this quarterback, and it's literally the exact same thing, if not worse, because you are actually investing in the position. I just always thought it was laughable how Raider fans and Geno Smith fans especially tried to convince everybody that the Raiders had like more talent around them than Seattle did. I was like, I saw him throw to DK Metcalf, JSN, say what you want about Lockett, but they had pass catchers all around last year, and they had 2 good running backs. Again, it was a below average run blocking offensive line and a below average pass blocking offensive line in Seattle. But Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet, those are good players you can turn around and the ball off to when they wanted to. So it wasn't like he was surrounded by nothing. And then with Las Vegas, it kind of is a who's who at receiver again. I mean, Jacoby Myers, like their best guy, he's gonna get traded. I mean, Amari Cooper was like, I'm out of here. I'm retiring. I'm not gonna like this is nonsense. Brock Bowers is easily the best pass catcher there, and he's hurt. So that's a serious problem. Genty's literally a rookie, and we love him, but again, he's a rookie. So I think Geno Smith fans and Raider fans just kind of misread this roster as like, oh, they'll be fun. He's got more talent than he had in Seattle, and he was great in Seattle. It's like, no, he doesn't. And this has been a total nightmare. By the way, as we're recording this, a trade just happened. Funny, we just talked about it.
Really?
Yeah, the Eagles are trading John Mechie to the Jets for Michael Carter, the corner. Nothing really crazy there, but that's one we could have. I could have done that one. I could have been like, oh, John Mechie's on the move.
I like that move for Philly. Since we're breaking it right now, I like that move for Philly. I think they needed more help in the secondary. I wonder the week when Quinyon Mitchell gets called for PI like 4 times in a game. I'm waiting for that to happen. I don't know if it's going to. He is grabby, man. He grabs constantly. And Riley Moss gets called for it every week, and Quinyon Mitchell doesn't. So I just want to send that into the NFL office. But I like
by the way, that Bucks
Philly.
game, he could have got called for 8 pass interferences that game. They didn't really call anything. So I mean, maybe it's again, who knows? But eventually, he might get called for one, or maybe it's one of those things where it's like, if you have a good rookie year at corner, you kind of get away with stuff after that. We've seen it before around the league where it's like, if you have if you have good staying power in the league after 1 year, and you're a supposedly good young corner, you kind of get away with some stuff. Other guys do not.
And Carter has at least some potential. I think in Philly, he'll be a better player.
Yep.
Let's keep it moving, though. We're going to skip the next one. We'll wrap that up later with some of the other retrospective ones from our pilot episode. Let's go to, is literally anyone noticing that this guy is awesome right now?
Well, I'm noticing, but I feel like all anyone's talking about right now in the running back landscape is how awesome Jonathan Taylor is. I don't know if you've seen his MVP odds. He's like top 3 in the MVP conversation. Rightfully so, by the way. He's been the best player on the number 1 offense in football through 8 weeks, so 100%. But when everyone talks about Buffalo, it's Josh Allen. Josh Allen is still number 2 in MVP odds. And I don't know if anyone,
which I think is insane, by the way. I think the fact that him and May are tied, I think May should be leading it personally. But if nothing else, I think it should be May and Mahomes way above anyone else. The fact that May and Allen are on the same tier is blasphemous to me.
Definitely over
Allen. Makes no sense.
Yeah, 100%. Because if anyone's been watching Buffalo, and Buffalo's wins this year, I don't know if anyone knows this, it's largely because of James Cook. It's not because of Josh Allen at all this year. In Buffalo's last 4 wins, here are James Cook's numbers, just rushing, not from scrimmage. 132 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, 6.3 yards a carry in that game. 108 yards, touchdown, 5.7 yards a carry. 117 yards and a touchdown, 5.3 yards a carry. And then last week, 216 yards, 2 touchdowns on almost 12 yards a carry. If you're Josh Allen, I mean, heck, just hand the ball to James Cook, because that's how we're winning games right now. But no one's really talking about James Cook right now. It's very, very confusing when I'm looking at the Offensive Player of the Year. I mean, he's already had, we're 7 games into the season. He's already got 850 scrimmage yards. I mean, we're not even halfway through the year yet. He could be flirting with a 1,700, 1,800 yard season. He's having an unbelievable year, and I'm not really hearing about it in national news. Everyone's talking about, oh, well, how's Josh Allen playing? How's the Bills' defense look? As far as them winning games, and then as far as running backs goes, it's Jonathan Taylor, and then you're hearing about Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley. Well, it's like, well, James Cook's having a really, really good year, and that's why Buffalo's 5-2 right now. It's not because of Josh Allen right now. It's because of James Cook. He's been unbelievable in their 4 wins, they have 5 wins, and in the 5th win he had ho-hum just 102 yards from scrimmage, but that's kind of like the worst of the 5 games that he's had. in all 5 of their wins. So, I mean, you can't say enough about what James Cook's been doing, but really no one's talking about it.
I think it's hard for people to dissociate the star running back who has a star quarterback. I think the quarterback always gets credit in that regard.
Right.
I think that's why Jonathan Taylor, we've actually kind of seen him do this before. Maybe not to this level, but we've seen at least like 90% of this from him. But because it's Daniel Jones who looks good on the side of him, and what we've seen of Jones the last few years, I think that puts Taylor in a more prominent light. Yeah. With Cook, because Allen is the reigning MVP, because Allen is so beloved by media and fans across the country, I think it's just hard for him to get his flowers, for better or worse. But
sure,
I think that's just kind of where it's at this point.
Yeah, no, 100%. And by the way, we did see Jonathan Taylor do something similar in the COVID year with Phillip Rivers, and he got the Colts to the playoffs, not really because of Phillip Rivers, but because of Jonathan Taylor. This one is kind of crazy because it's the Colts offense in general is insane, but he's having a ridiculous season in year, what are we in, 6? Year 6 for Jonathan Taylor, I believe. I mean, it's unbelievable to see that. Yeah. So that one was shocking to me, but I think James Cook is one that, if we're going to talk about Buffalo, we got to start with Allen and Cook. You know, that's how they're winning.
I agree. I think Allen has not defended his MVP the way I wanted him to, and there's plenty of season left, and he can really turn it on. This Sunday will be big against Kansas City.
Yes,
but I think so far, I understand the talent around him isn't great. But I've also seen him just miss a lot of like wide open throws that he was just simply not missing last year.
Yeah, the Bills pass catchers, they leave a lot to be desired. But yeah, you mentioned the Allen Mahomes thing is almost always an Allen Mahomes duel. I think this year it's going to be a little bit more. If Buffalo wants to win the game, I do think they're going to lean on James Cook, and they've beaten Kansas City in the regular season before leaning on James Cook, so they might just do that. But yeah, you mentioned the Allen Mahomes thing will get all the spotlight, but James Cook might be sneaky one of the best players in that game.
I went with another running back as well. I went with J.K. Dobbins, who had an awesome start last year with the Chargers and then got hurt again. The thing with Dobbins is you kind of know eventually he has to get hurt because he's been hurt a million times. He tried to say that he wasn't injury prone because one of those injuries was basically 2 years long, and then it led to some other smaller injuries. So in reality, it's just one injury that was hampering him, and now he's fine. I hope he's right. I don't know if I love the argument, but for his sake, I hope he's right because
it sounds like injury prone,
and I think he's a great player. Yeah, he's missed a lot of time. It's kind of hard to shake that. But Denver on the ground looks like world beaters right now, and part of that is the offensive line. They are unbelievable run blockers. They are so tough up front, and Harvey's been great as well. But Dobbins in particular, just this big bruising back. Even on obvious rundowns, he's able to just kind of bull his way through. And when you think of Sean Payton offenses, you think of a lot of finesse and a lot of downfield passing. But even in New Orleans, you saw a guy like Mark Ingram thrive under Payton's leadership. Dobbins is cut from a similar cloth. I'd just really like to see his resurgence because at some point you have to think so many lower leg injuries to a running back that's going to cost him at some point. Yeah. So far, Dobbins, he came back pretty good last year. I thought his speed was an issue. I think he's faster this year. I think he's more athletic this year. So somehow he's kind of regenerating better each time. And hopefully this is just who he is at this point and he can stay in the lineup. But I've been really impressed with what he's brought to the table for Denver.
He's been really good. Denver's been really good. I hope for his sake that he stays healthy because it almost is, and we talked about this, it's almost like one of those things where it's like we are waiting for it to happen. It's like something that we know is going to happen. It's inevitable. And it really sucks to say about a guy, but I mean, he has been injured a lot now. And we said it last year in LA. Remember, we were like, hey, he's off to a really good start. And then he got hurt in that Monday night game against the Ravens, I believe. And we were like, oh, this is when it usually happens. So it's like, oh, it's a killer. But you hope that he's able to avoid that this year because Denver right now, I mean, this is probably the best. I mean, he had a great run backing O-line last year. Chargers ran the ball really well last year in large part because of him and the offensive line, but he's in another really good position. If he can just stay healthy, I'm rooting for him, obviously. We love JK all day. I mean, he's, that's our guy. But I'm really hoping that he's able to stay healthy because he's been awesome. It almost feels like this guy, whenever he gets hurt, he gets back and he gets better. So I'm just hoping he's able to put together a full season of health to where we can actually kind of judge him correctly.
Mike, what about the team you can't remember the last time they made the quad box? The team that even on a Sunday afternoon, there's no bye weeks, there's 32 teams on all across the day, whether it's the quad box, the dual box, it doesn't matter. They just will not find a screen for you.
Ooh, this was a while ago. It's still the Titans for me. I still can't find room for them. None of their games are interesting to me. I'm sorry, I can't do it. Either they're playing someone that's not interesting, like the Cardinals or the Raiders. Like I'm not watching those games. Or the Texans. I'm not interested in the Texans at all this year. Like they've played those games, or they're just playing a game where I don't care about them specifically. Like I don't want to watch Tennessee anymore. So it's one of those things. They played the Colts twice now, and all those games have given us are 2 30-point bludgeonings. I could have watched college football at that point, because those games are equally as blowouts as some of these Titans-Colts games. And Brian Callahan, like, awful decision in that first Colts game. The second Colts game, it was just 7-on-7 drills, and Jonathan Taylor running for 200 yards, whatever it was. So the Titans are just not Titans games are never close. The only close game they played was that Cardinals game, and they won in like kind of silly, goofy fashion. Like the Patriots game, I didn't watch any of it because I knew they're going to lose by 1 million. The Colts game, I didn't really watch much of it because I knew they're going to lose by 1 million. I can't find room for the Titans on my screen because they're just not competitive. Like there's at least the Saints, who would have been my answer 8 weeks ago. I believe they were my answer 8 weeks ago. They've been kind of frisky at times. Like they've been close with Buffalo one game. They were close with I forget who else. Another good team they were close with.
They were close-ish with the Patriots.
Kind of close with New England a little bit, right? So they were in that game for a little bit. The Titans aren't in any of these games. Like they're an absolute joke. And we're kind of surprised by this because I think we both like Tennessee a little bit to like hit their over and kind of be like a frisky. They'll be better. They were so bad last year at quarterback. They'll be better this year. They have to be. And they are 1-7, and they're lucky to be 1-7. Like they probably should be 0-8 right now. They should be the only
so
0-8 team.
Let's just get into this real quick because I think we both thought Tennessee could have been like a long shot, like sleeper, whether it was like 7th team in the AFC somehow, or just at least like 8 wins around there. The defense has had some key injuries, so that's been a problem. But more so than anything has been this offense that just doesn't know what it's doing anymore. Ridley has been so impressively bad. Chigakongwu seems like he's better on paper than he is actually playing football. Yeah. And Elick and DK, the rookie tandem at wide receiver, are pretty good, but they just really need another like above average guy in that room that they don't have. But a lot of it has to do with Cam Ward. Like it really does. And we made the argument, well, the team has enough talent, better talent than I think others realize, but if Ward's just decent, then how would they not be like a 6 to 8 win team? But Ward hasn't been decent. He's been bad. He had a decent showing against Denver in the first game of the season, all things considered.
That was the last time they made up my Sunday ticket. By the way, that was the exact last time that they made up my Sunday ticket. I have not been on the Titans since then. They have been off.
Yeah, he played well-ish against Arizona. He played a decent first half against New England. But for the most part, he's just been just as bad, if not worse, than Levis was last year, who was actively losing them games. Ward's been kind of doing the exact same thing. I still attest, if they had a mediocre head coach and they had a mediocre quarterback, I think this roster could win 6-7 games. I think there's enough guys up and down the roster that are decent, at least, if nothing else. They're just decent. But it just hasn't come together. It's been terrible. And I almost put them. I knew you'd put them, so I went a different direction. I put your team here. I put the Miami Dolphins. I can't do it anymore. I can't pretend to be interested in the saga. I almost put them in the storyline I can't care less about.
Okay.
But between the coach who seems gone at the end of the year, who has lost/not lost the locker room, we've seemingly got 10 different reports on that.
Who knows?
The quarterback I don't believe in. The offense that was fun a few years ago that is just kind of tiresome at this point, which
no longer fun.
Looks good if you catch them at the right time, but otherwise is kind of just a big old gimmick that has no staying power. And now we're seeing Malik Washington do the things that Tyreek Hill did. I'm just kind of over it. I like Devon A-Chain. I think he's a really great back. I think he's just electrifying with the ball in his hands. But outside of him, I don't know what reason to turn into this team. Like the defense is kind of pitiful, to say the least. It's going to be a few guys next year who are playing in the CFL. That's how bad it is. Yeah. I just don't know why I'm tuning in. I don't know why I'm even like checking them on the box score just to see what happened. Obviously, I watch all these teams. I want to preface this because I have to. It's what I do. I have to watch all the games at some point. But it's not like I'm going out of my way intentionally to watch any Dolphins games.
Yeah, by the way, I lied. I was the last Titans game I turned into was week 2 against the Rams. So apologize. It was not week 1. It was actually week 2. I gave the Titans 2 weeks, not 1 week. I don't have to watch all these teams. So I'm going to say right now, I did not watch much Titans after week 2. But the Dolphins, yeah, they you don't really have to watch them. The only thing that I would say is more interesting about them than the Titans is the storyline was, when is McDaniel going to get fired? You could tune in to see the kind of the colossal.
You want to see the interim boost? Is that what you're pitching?
No, here's what I'm pitching. Titans at this point have already fired their head coach, and no one really cares about them anymore. They're kind of like off the shelf, if you will. It's like, okay, no reason to watch the Titans anymore. We've already watched the demise of Brian Callahan. At this point, if you want to tune in to watch the demise of Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa, or both, or one of the two, they're still there. They're still together. So there is something of like, well, we can still watch these guys completely, stumble over themselves, whether it's in press conferences or on the field or on the sideline. There is still that narrative there, but I mean, there's not much reason to watch this team right now. I'm not going to disagree with you there. Although they were good on Sunday when I went there, so that was nice. But yeah, he's like they've half lost the locker room, and then they've also put together a nice showing on Sunday. It's like, well, where are we with this team right now? It's not really. Again, you catch them on the right day, maybe. They've been competitive against some of these teams like the Chargers.
What's even more annoying about it, the schedule was in their favor. Like the schedule was designed so that even if they stumbled out of the gate, which they did, they have had so many opportunities to get back on track.
Yeah.
Losses against Cleveland and Carolina immediately come to mind. You have those 2 wins, and now all of a sudden, this is like an AFC potential wildcard team.
Right.
And again, we wouldn't take them that seriously, but at least they'd be there. And because the AFC East has been fortunate this year between really the entire division of playing such a weak schedule. Why shouldn't Miami be a potential playoff team? And the reason is because the coach no one believes in. The quarterback is losing favor more so by the week. He had the good performance against Atlanta, sure, but he owns that building. So I think it was more about that than Tua getting back on track.
Yeah, by the way, they both had good games against Atlanta. I thought that was one of the better games of Mike McDaniel. Took about 8 weeks too long. Tua obviously is good in a dome, but this team, yeah, you're right. The schedule was like, hey, we can prop you up early to be kind of like this fake good team that's 5-3 maybe. I mean, they lost to the Patriots at home, which they almost never do.
They never did. Even during the Brady years, they never really did that.
Right.
That's how good they are in that building.
In September against New England, usually they win those games, and they didn't even do that this year. So they had that propped up as like a scheduling break. As hey, you get to play this cold weather New England team second week of the season in your home building when it's hot as heck in September. They didn't win that game. They lost to Carolina when they were up 17 points. They lost to the Chargers when they couldn't bring down Herbert in what was a mess of a Chargers offensive line. They lost to Cleveland, who, I mean, how is anyone losing to Cleveland these days? I mean, Myles Garrett had 5 sacks and Cleveland still won.
Not just losing, getting torched.
Getting bludgeoned by Cleveland. So, yeah, we don't even know what this team is right now. So, I mean, I don't know how. I mean, they're making my Sunday ticket because obviously they have to. I cover the team. But if I wasn't, they would not be in the first 5 picks of my 1 o'clock slate on every Sunday. And by the way, last week there was 6 teams on a bye. So I went to the game because I was like, well, I don't want to watch any of these Sunday ticket games because the 1 o'clock slate was slow. I was like, do I want to watch Buffalo and Carolina? Do I want to watch Eagles Giants again? I don't want to watch any of these games. The 1 o'clock slate was so bad last week. I was like, you know what? Let me just go to the game so I don't have to watch any of these other games. But even that, I was like, okay, well, Atlanta, we'll get to them too. But I don't know what Miami is. So I don't hate the pick. I just think the Titans are literally so boring and so bad. And there's really nothing interesting about them at all. At least with Miami, there's this quarterback controversy with a guy making $200 million and this Mike McDaniel thing where it's like, how's he still here? I don't know, but there's not much staying power with the Dolphins right now.
Let's condense this now a little bit. The guy I'm so sick of, it's not even funny. So the singular individual, whether that's a player or coach that you are just so tired of, is just barely worth speaking about at this point.
Can I pick Raheem Morris for the Falcons?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I pick the Falcons head coach? Atlanta kind of blows. Like they're like a quiet 3-4 team that's terrible. Again, I had the luxury of watching this in person. I was shocked to see that Miami went up and down the field on any team 1 week after getting bludgeoned by Dylan Gabriel and the Browns. Raheem Morris, I don't know if he knows what he's doing. He wasted a challenge in the first quarter, seemingly because he forgot that forward progress existed. I don't know what he was doing there, but the side official signals first down immediately. And he's like, well, actually, he went backwards here. Let's challenge this. It's like, well, Raheem, forward progress exists. So that's a first down. I don't know why you're wasting a first quarter challenge on that. he just, again, he got completely out-schemed by Mike McDaniel in 2025. 2 years ago, that would be okay. Mike McDaniel, he's a bit of a guru, so, no pun intended, he's kind of this new hotshot guy. Now, Mike McDaniel's like on his last legs. I mean, you see him in these press conferences, he looks disheveled, looks disinterested, he's stumbling over his words, and then he kind of quietly put up a really nice performance against Raheem Morris's defense, which I keep hearing about. They're the top 5 pass defense. I don't know how that's possible.
I think, I'm not even kidding, they are like top 3 in total yards allowed per game, I'm pretty sure.
How in the world is that even happening? I don't know. But he got carved up by an offense that, let me just read the names out. Larry Borum, cast away from the Chicago Bears last year. Cole Strange couldn't make New England's roster. Jonas Savaianaya, who's been a really rough rookie so far this year. Patrick Paul, that's the offensive line that just crushed Atlanta on the last scrimmage. Greg Dulcich and Tanner Conner at tight ends. Who are those guys? No Darren Waller this week. So Atlanta couldn't stop those guys. Nick Westbrook-Akine at wide receiver. I don't know. The offense is without Tyreek Hill, Darren Waller, and 2 starters on the offensive line. So, again, I don't know how they almost dropped 40 points on Raheem Morris's defense, but I've watched Atlanta now lose to the likes of Mac Jones, Tua Tagovailoa, and Bryce Young, the Alabama trio of quarterbacks. So maybe Raheem Morris isn't that good. I mean, it took me watching it in person to be like, I don't know what this guy's doing. I don't know how Atlanta's defense is like propped up to be any good because I'm not seeing it at all. Atlanta's not good at all. Atlanta's not a good 3-4 team. They are not good. And
they
I think
are kind of a Buffalo not pissing down their leg away from Raheem Morris probably being the number 1 coach in the hot seat. Because they won that game and because they're still close to 500, I don't think he's got necessarily the pushback that he deserves. And that's even this week, they go to New England, and that was a game I was a little worried about before the season. When I was going through like game by game, I was like, ooh, like Atlanta, frisky team, could have a decently high ceiling. And I guess we've seen that at points, but even then, like the Buffalo game, they had a high ceiling for 15 minutes and then it all fell apart and they just hung on desperately to somehow get that win. But now, I mean, look, every team looks awesome in the first quarter against New England. After that, I expect New England to really have a showcase game and like kind of take it to at least a team of slightly better caliber of who they've been playing, like the Browns and the Panthers and whatnot. I expect New England to kind of take care of them. And then at 3-5, I mean, I guess because of the way the NFC is situated, maybe then finally he'll catch some more flack. But Penix has been hurt. They didn't have London Sunday either.
That's offensive.
There's some excuses in there for him. But I completely agree with you. Just watching him, I see what you see. I see a guy that's in over his head. I see a guy that doesn't look like he's progressing whatsoever with this Atlanta team. And one of our buddies texted us the other day and was basically like, this notion that Atlanta has to be an awesome offense is terrible. And I don't necessarily agree with that. And I thought about it for a little while. I think they have enough talent to at least be a top 20 offense in the league. They can at least be better than what they're producing. And it's so up and down, and they're there solely because of Bijan Robinson, but they also have other guys. Like, if I know Mooney and London have both dealt with some injuries, but full strength unit with London and Mooney on the outside, with Pitts at tight end, and with Bijan. And Pitts isn't exactly what we want him to be, but I still think at this point, he's one of the better slot options in the league. I think he's looked way better this year. He looks more comfortable. He has a decent rapport with Penix. That should be enough. It just should be. And the line's okay. It didn't look okay Sunday, but it's been okay over time, even without, the best personnel. It's still been serviceable.
Yeah.
I think the real problem is obviously Raheem Morris and then Penix just not really living up to it. But I think it starts in Atlanta with Morris.
Well, yeah, and by the way, they do get some flack because on Sunday they did not have Drake London or Michael Penix, but I give more of that, okay, that's a break for Zach Robinson. I'm not even a Zach Robinson apologist, but okay, he didn't have 2 of his guys on offense from the skill position players. Raheem Morris, I don't know how his defense gets let off the hook here. I mean, outside of Buffalo just kind of pissing down their legs, they would be 2-5 right now with 3 of the most embarrassing losses on the season.
Yeah.
2 of the most embarrassing losses. 30-0 shutout to Bryce Young and the Panthers, and then a 34-10, and that wasn't even the closest. That wasn't even really as close as it sounds. Miami was taking knees at the end of that game. Atlanta scored a late touchdown with like 2 minutes to go to make it 34-10.
I thought the San Francisco game against the corpse roster was embarrassing. If they actually lost that Buffalo game, that would have been super embarrassing. I think pretty much their whole season's been an embarrassment outside of somehow hanging on against the Bills. That's kind of what they're hanging their hat on.
Oh, all of their losses, again, the 30-0 loss to Bryce Young, the 34-10 loss to Tua, and then the loss to the Corpse Niners, the 3 Bama quarterbacks I just mentioned. Those are the 3 most embarrassing losses of the season for a team that's supposed to be frisky. I mean, what is Atlanta going to be, 7-10 again? Are we going to run back this Raheem Morris thing again?
I think they might be worse.
That's what I'm saying. But like, if you're Atlanta, they're trending right to 7-10 territory. What are they? They're 3-4 right now. They probably have some winnable Saints games coming up. They still have to play the Saints twice. They still get Carolina this time in Atlanta. So they're probably headed right towards that 6 or 7 win territory, which is, again, more purgatory. It's like, oh, well, Raheem Morris, had some injuries this year. Atlanta's going to be fun next year. They're going to be frisky. No, they're not. They're not good. And I don't think Raheem Morris is good. So I think I've seen enough of him, and I think I've seen enough of this Atlanta team, quite frankly, because I've certainly seen enough of Kirk Cousins. I don't need it. That was my first time seeing Kirk Cousins live, and I want my money back. That was not good. That was not good at all. I think that this might be the end of the road for our guy Kirk.
Sticking in the NFC South with an aforementioned name, I can't do the Bryce Young thing anymore. I know the team's 500. I get it. It's and no fault of him trying so desperately to hold this team back. He is as bad as I've ever seen anyone play quarterback in this league, with numerous chances, with numerous excuses around him. He's gotten every just little smidget of help that he could possibly have at this point in his career, just constantly benefited of the doubt swirling around him, and he's terrible. He is so bad. I don't care what the record is. That is because of Rico Dowdle. Literally solely because of Rico Dowdle, and a defense that, if Bryce Young is at least moving the ball at a decent level, can play okay ball. And most people can't even name more than 2 players on that defense. But at times they look okay. So there's that. Young is just abysmal. He's bad. He is really bad. And I worry that if this team wins like 7 or 8 games, that they're just going to trot him back out again next year because of course, using the capital, a phrase we consistently say, with the first overall pick, trading a ton of picks at the same time to get him as well. I think they're going to give him more benefit of the doubt. And I think he's just going to keep going out there and embarrassing himself and embarrassing that team. And if they had 3 wins, if they had 2 wins, maybe this is different. But because they have 4, it's kind of gone under the radar. But again, I want to reiterate this numerous times. The 4 wins have nothing to do with him. He is not winning them any games. In fact, he is more often losing them games than keeping them in them. I feel bad because the Panthers at least deserve some level of competence. I think they've done things in a decently impressive fashion. I think they've tried to really take all these parts of successful organizations and implement them all into one and do it their own way. And I think Canales is a decent coach, but man, Young is not it. It is pitiful, and I talked about it in the pilot, and I'll talk about it seemingly until he gets benched at some point in his career. It's sooner rather than later, but the fact that people are still making excuses for him just genuinely makes me ill.
Well, it's funny, in the pilot episode, if we had said, hey, guess what, guys, 8 weeks from now, they're going to be 4-4, we probably would have thought, okay, maybe Bryce Young's playing better football. Maybe we were wrong. Maybe we, give
100%.
That's not the case at all. First of all, I don't know how they're 4-4. How are they 4-4 again? They beat the Jets 13-6 because the Jets kind of just didn't want to win. And then the Dolphins, allowed 270 yards on the ground, so they beat them there. I don't know how they're 4-4 though. Like,
it seems like they've won all their games, like the Dallas game. They win all their games by the other team losing the game more so than them winning it. Yeah,
that was another interesting one. I don't know how they won that game either. So yeah, the Panthers are kind of a weird 4-win. I don't know how I still don't know how they're a 4-win team, but it doesn't have anything to do with Bryce Young. The defense, outside of Derek Brown and J.C. Horn, we really don't know how many guys on that defense are any good. So honestly, a credit to David Canales that they're a 4-win team right now. But the Bryce Young thing, they're going to give him more leeway because of what you mentioned. They gave up so many draft picks, so much. They gave up a treasure chest of draft picks to go up and get him. They gave up DJ Moore to get him too. Forgot about that in that trade. So we gave up DJ Moore plus multiple first-round picks to go out and get Bryce Young. One of them turned into the number 1 pick, which was Caleb Williams too. So they gave up a ton for him. So I'm not going to give up on him obviously now, but it's not looking good. I mean, you expect Ted McMillan to have a huge year because, okay, if Bryce Young's better, then he's going to have a really good year too. But Ted McMillan had 100 yards last week, and it was not with Bryce Young in the lineup. It was with Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton was terrible too. So not saying he's like anything better, but It's just not looking. It's not looking great for Bryce Young right now, and he's supposedly gotten the help in the offseason that we were like, okay, well, this is the year for Bryce Young, right? I mean, he's gotten another first-round wide receiver back-to-back years. The O-line's supposed to be better, even though they have dealt with some injuries on the offensive line. So that has happened there, but they've run the ball really well. So you get a quarterback now who has a ground game. I mean, he had a ground game last year with Chuba Hubbard. So it's just like at some point it is Bryce Young, and I don't know how Carolina's 4-4 right now. That might also give him more leeway if they win like 8-9 games, and it's like, oh, Bryce Young, like he's looking better, and he has another nice end of the season like he did last year. Then they might keep talking themselves into, okay, we're the breakout team next year. This next year is going to be the year for Bryce Young. Year 4, he had better games at the end of year 2. And if he has better games at the end of this season, year 3, they're going to talk themselves into probably running it back with him. And who knows? I just think that it's probably not going to end well.
Mike, we've reached this point. So the final 3 superlatives are all going to be in some way a callback to something that we did in our pilot episode, the preseason superlatives. So famously, our most hyped up award was the 07 Megan Fox Award.
Yes.
The player that out of nowhere would be a household name. I predicted in that I said Drake Maye / Kayshon Boutte. I said Drake Maye is too easy. That's my real answer, but watch out for Kayshon Boutte. My answer again today for that superlative is still the combo of Drake Maye and Kayshon Boutte.
Oh,
the I can't believe this guy is good award. That's essentially what it is. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
I'm sticking with Drake Maye, and I knew it would happen, but I can't even believe it's happening like this. I thought he'd be good. I thought they'd win 10 games. I thought they'd be around like the 6-7 seed in the AFC. They'd be a fun story. But at the end of the day, he would be kind of game managing a little bit with the offensive talent around him, and I thought the defense would primarily be the reason they'd win. Yeah. I thought Trevion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson as kind of a 1-2 punch would be enough in the backfield to kind of establish a run game, and May would work around them. In reality, Drake Maye, at worst, in my opinion, is second in the MVP race. He is having the single most ridiculous deep passing season ever in the history of the NFL. From week 3, he leads in pretty much every offensive category after his first few shaky games, if you will.
Yep.
It is just out of control how good this guy is. He leads the league in passer rating right now, actually, if you just don't count Lamar Jackson, who hasn't played in weeks. He's the leader, and he's top 5 in like EPA per play. Just no matter how you want to look at it, raw, box score stats, advanced stuff, tape, every single metric, this guy is a top 5 quarterback in the league at this point. I thought he'd be good. I thought he'd be really good eventually. He is so special at this point. It's out of control. And to my Boutte shout, I want to give myself a little pat on the back because I was the only one
100%.
Who was mentioning that this guy had a real chance of being the top wide receiver for this team. Everyone was talking about Stephon Diggs, Pop Douglas, gained a lot of traction in NFL circles for whatever reason.
Why?
I said, hold on, this guy, Kayshon Boutte, is a legit NFL player. I think he has wide receiver 1 potential. I don't know how good he's going to be eventually, but I think he's going to be an integral part to this team's success, and he's been better than even I could have predicted. So obviously some of that was home cooking, but when you're able to watch these guys day in and day out and watch the tape and whatever and know the intricacies because it is your local team, you're able to kind of take a better shot at some stuff like that, and mine luckily hit, but no reason to change it now. I'm sticking with Drake Maye, and I think he might be going home with the Megan Fox Award when it's all said and done.
That's pretty crazy to me. Again, I'm not shocked that New England is better than they were last year. I did have them doubling their win total. But his play has been the most surprising part, I think, about it. I mean, I know they haven't really played. Now, this is like the 4th week in a row they've played like kind of a nothing burger team with Cleveland, New Orleans, Tennessee, and Carolina, I believe was the last 4. Or maybe Carolina was before the Buffalo game. But those 4 games, I'm like, okay, well, whatever. But the Buffalo game was really interesting to me because that one, you don't just go into Buffalo and play that well if you're, some nothing burger quarterback. So that was really impressive to me. Boutte, the same thing. He's been good since the start of the season. So he didn't just come out of nowhere per se, but like when I watched him week 2 against the Dolphins, I was like, oh, we can't contain him. Now maybe our secondary stinks, or maybe he's just really good. So that was for sure. Again, New England being 6-2 at this point is wild. And by the way, they lost to the Raiders. So we already talked about the Raiders, how much of a mess they are. New England 6-2 with a loss to the Raiders. So they could be 7-1 right now, which is insane. They also fumbled 5 times against Pittsburgh. So that's a wild storyline to me. To me, I don't think this is ever going to be topping what Daniel Jones is doing right now. Daniel Jones literally makes no sense. This is one of the most shocking things that's ever happened in the history of the NFL to me, and maybe to you too. I mean, I would have expected Justin Fields to revive his career before I predicted Daniel Jones to revive his career in Indianapolis.
Me too.
Kind of quarterback purgatory. The last 7 years, they've had like a different week 1 starter like each of the last 7 years. And I was like, okay, Daniel Jones, add him to the list because he won't be here next year. This is like the last time we'll see Daniel Jones at this level ever again.
And Mike, we sniffed out that an AFC South team would, outside of Houston, would win the division that no one really thought. And I believe the bet I gave was like, it was plus 180, and it was my favorite bet. I said that during the pilot, but we misfired in suggesting the other two teams were probably the most likely candidates, when in reality, it was Indy all along who we kind of disregarded. And I believe you made the comment in the episode. You're like, what if Daniel Jones is just okay? And we both laughed it off. We're like, yeah, funny. Right. Good one.
But here's the thing. He hasn't been just okay. It's not like he's just reviving his career. He's leading the number 1 offense in football right now. And the Colts are 7-1 with the best record in the league. It doesn't make any sense. By the way, I don't know if you remember, I don't know if you're old enough for this. 9 weeks ago, when the Colts named him their starter, again, I don't know if you're old enough to remember this. Large, very big, famous Colts pages were literally apologizing to their fan base. They were like, I'm sorry that you have to go through this. They were literally like, I cannot believe.
Do you remember the Quentin Nelson quote where he basically said he's sick of the quarterback changes and basically insinuated that he was low on Daniel Jones? You don't kind of make that comment if you're confident in your quarterback.
Daniel Jones got named the starter. They were like, yeah, we're all frustrated. This really sucks, man. We're just tired of the constant turnover. Like they had no faith in Daniel Jones at all. The Colts fan pages were literally apologizing, saying, I'm sorry that this season has to come to it. I'm sorry you have to witness this season that we're about to have. They were literally
they're acting like they had faith all along, which I think is rather comical.
This is going to happen. Absolutely no, you did not. I mean, they were acting like this guy was like, they were acting like he was Hitler or something. Like he was.
Mike, can I add to this, by the way? Because one of our superlatives in the opener was the head coach axed before Veterans Day. Your pick was Shane Steichen.
I picked like 4 Colts. I think I picked like 4 Colts to be all axed. I was like, the Colts are going to be off my Sunday ticket after week 1 because I had to watch them with the Dolphins game. I had the Colts on like 4 different superlatives. I said, this is going to be the worst team in the league. Easily and I did this with Denver last year, by the way. So maybe I'm just a kiss of death. I said Denver would be terrible last year. They were frisky good in the playoffs. I thought the Colts would be.
I believe your comment was Denver would be easily the worst team in the league.
I said Denver would be worse than Carolina.
And I said, if you remember, my response to that was, I think they might make the playoffs. And they made the playoffs, and I victory lapped it for weeks afterwards. I was so confident in that take. It was you and someone else who were just adamant that Denver was terrible. And I said, hey, this team is way better than you think.
Yeah, I believe me and Mitty were both saying that the Colts were going to be, or not the Colts, the Broncos were going to be an absolute joke. And they were 0-2 last year. We were all victory lapping it. The Broncos are terrible. The Colts have shown no signs of ever being terrible. So maybe that was just a total misfire by me. I'm going to throw my hand up and be like, hey.
No, I thought the process was fine. They added a horrific quarterback to a team that on paper, the talent is kind of all over the place. I think they're playing incredibly confident. I still wonder if they lost that game to Denver, if this would still be the same team that we're seeing. Right. I know we talked about this in previous episodes, but I think the confidence factor, when you build up enough equity, it kind of just rolls over and rolls over. I think we're all expecting this to be Minnesota 2.0 from last year, and I've seen nothing to really discount that take. But until they lose, and until they kind of lose in dramatic fashion, I think this could just keep happening until they run into a buzzsaw. And because their division is so poor, I don't really know when this is going to end.
They could lock this thing up by Thanksgiving. By the way, even if it is Minnesota of last year, Darnold would have been the runaway favorite for the Megan Fox Award. Even with them losing the wild card round, they went 14-3, and they led a top 5 offense. If Indianapolis goes 14-3, Daniel Jones is going to get another contract. I mean, obviously, that's like a no-brainer. So crazy.
At least tagged, if nothing else.
At the very least, tagged. And by the way, maybe all it took was benching Anthony Richardson. If that was the case, then hey, maybe I wouldn't have totally misfired on the Colts. I thought that they were both awful options.
Well, even last year with Flacco, they showed some signs of life, and even in some of the losses, they still looked okay. So I guess the take was there that if they just got a decent enough quarterback, this team was actually pretty good.
You mean a guy who can?
None of us thought the actual decent quarterback was Daniel Jones.
No, but you're saying that. So what you're saying is, if they just got a guy who can complete more than 9 passes a game, maybe the Colts could win some games. So maybe
if they had someone we liked a little bit more, and I can't really think of a guy off the top of my head that would have fit this, but theoretically, if they just got someone that
they got Darnold, I would have been like,
or let's say Geno. Let's say they had Geno. Would that have worked better in Indy? Probably, yeah. I really do think it would have been better, and Geno wouldn't have fallen into this hole. We wouldn't have picked it, but we would have at least understood it a little bit better. This Daniel Jones thing is just out of nowhere. It's like we're in this big simulation, and someone just decided to mess with us and make Daniel Jones this
doesn't make any sense. Yeah, by the way, had they had Geno Smith, if they went out and traded for him in the offseason, we would not have had the Colts as the worst team in football. We wouldn't have had them making the playoffs, probably. But with Daniel Jones, we were like, okay, that's nothing. We literally audibly laughed in the pilot episode of, okay, what if the Colts just have like good quarterback play? That's not happening. They've had more than good quarterback play. They've had great quarterback play. It's insane. I honestly, I feel like I'm getting messed with. I feel like I'm getting tricked, and this is all going to be, Halloween joke or whatever this is. Like, it's not going to actually last, right? But it seems like it is. Like, I don't know. Maybe this is just legit. Crazy.
We had something in the pilot that was akin to this. It was the guy that needs the change of scenery. We also had one where it was the guy we're just kind of sick of seeing, like they hang up the cleats, pal. This is a little bit different, and I can't believe I didn't think of this at the time. But the Fetty Wap Fall-Off. So this is the inverse to the Megan Fox. As soon as you can rise up to fame, you can immediately fall off. I don't know what happened to Fetty Wap. That's for Hulu documentary in 10 years. I know he's still producing music, but this is a guy that you had high hopes for, or a thing, a unit, whatever it may be, that you had high hopes for that inexplicably is just bad at this point.
So I didn't go with a guy on this one. I went with the entire unit. Do you know the Steelers defense is it's the most expensive defense in football? I don't know if you knew that.
I did. I mean, between Ramsey and Watt, Peppers had some money. Watt, all these guys have some money tied to them.
Yeah, Cam Hayward got some incentives there as well. Heisman, all those guys are getting a lot of money. It's an expensive roster. Did you also know that the Steelers defense can't stop anything? They can't stop a nosebleed right now. I don't know if you watched the Thursday game last Thursday, not this most recent one. Joe Flacco was on about 8 days of just getting into his new hotel in Cincinnati. Just drove from one city in Ohio to the other one, and he carved the Steelers up on literally a short week of just getting there. I mean, it was like I've never seen anything like it. Their corners are expensive and old. That's the last thing you want it to be, is expensive and old. So they have Ramsey and Darius.
And they're not playing well either. So if you want the whole trifecta, there it is.
There it is, by the way. So Ramsey and Slay just kind of got toyed with. Each of the last 3 weeks they've gotten toyed with. But the quarterbacks of Steelers defense has faced this year in their wins. Take away Drake Maye, because that was a 5 turnover game, a 5 fumble game. Not all on Drake Maye, but take away the Steelers win over Drake Maye. The wins that they've had, and here's the quarterbacks that they faced in those wins. Dylan Gabriel does not look good. Carson Wentz does not look good. Justin Fields literally was being called out by his owner not even a week ago, literally on our podcast. The Steelers, those are their 4 wins, and 3 of them are against Dylan Gabriel, Carson Wentz, and Justin Fields. And a couple other wins have been against, let me see here. They've beaten Dylan Gabriel. Their losses have been against Jordan Love, who we aren't even that big on. Joe Flacco, as I mentioned just a week ago. Joe Flacco literally in relief for Joe Burrow and Jake Browning. That's who they've lost to. So they faced nothing quarterbacks, and they can't stop anything. If TJ Watt can't get to the quarterback, they are not stopping you. The secondary is not good.
Like Watt's been that awesome either. And I just want to bring this up. TJ Watt right now has 26 pressures according to PFF. Okay. Abdul Carter has 32. And Abdul Carter doesn't have the luxury. I mean, sure, he plays next to Brian Burns, and Kayvon Thibodeau has some talent, but Alex Highsmith was supposed to be like this premium number 2 edge rusher. Like, this was supposed to be far and away the best pass rush tandem in the league, and it simply doesn't look like that at all. So,
and by the way, Highsmith did miss 2 weeks, but Watt is, still, and they are chipping him. But the game against Cleveland, I think most of his pressures probably came in that game, because outside of that, he hasn't really done that much this season. He didn't do much in the Jets game week 1 or the Seahawks game week 2. Cam Hayward wanted an incentive. He hasn't really been living up to the incentives that he wanted. I mean, the entire defense is getting paid a lot, and they're not producing anything. That's really alarming for a Steelers defense that's been good this entire 2020s. They've been taking the ball away, strip sack. We know how good they are against Lamar Jackson, those awesome quarterbacks. They've not been able to stop the bad quarterbacks this year. So by the way, their schedule is back half heavy. So they face the Josh Allens, the Jared Goffs, the Mahomes. They face those guys toward the end of the year. They obviously still have to place Baltimore twice. Lamar will be back by then. So they've been facing kind of some nothing burger quarterbacks right now, and they don't look good at all. I mean, it's really bad for a unit that has been good the last 5 years. They have completely fallen off a cliff, and I don't know if it's just because they're getting old, or because they're expensive and old, or I don't know what it is, but their corners are not good. I mean, have you watched their cornerback play the last few weeks? It's been like
it's been so bad. And I'm just not really impressed with this defensive line with Cam Hayward. Highsmith still played in 5 games.
Yes.
And then Watt. When you have all this talent, it's supposed to make it easier for the other guys to produce. Like the fact that Highsmith has 11 pressures and 1.5 sacks, that's ridiculous. That's insane. So this is supposed to be one of the most feared defenses in the league, and instead it's just honestly an embarrassment.
It's just free. I mean,
part of the reason why I was under on them was, of course, Rodgers and his kind of inability to do anything in New York. I thought that would translate over to Pittsburgh. I think he's played a little bit better. He's still bad for sure. I think he's been more fine than not, I guess. But the defense not being able to just win them games is a problem, because that's what they've honed in on the last few years.
Yeah, that we did not think would happen. By the way, Rodgers, I'm going to give him a slight pass because I think their offensive philosophy is also just terrible. It's like, how many tight ends can you have? they have like 4 that they like. They don't have any receiver besides Metcalf. It's Metcalf and a bunch of guys that make no sense next to Metcalf. I don't know what they were planning in that receiver room.
Yeah,
like
I mean, I guess Calvin Austin would make sense as like the gadget guy next to the bigger Metcalf. But outside of that, it's like the fact that they want a receiver, that's funny. I mean, I guess you could say the George Pickens thing ran its course, but you knew once he was gone, you needed a receiver and you did nothing about it. And the fact that your replacement options are like Jacoby Myers, like that's not going to matter the way you think it is. But
the reason why I almost want to give Aaron a little bit of credit for this, because the offense is literally just get the ball to your tight ends short. It's a very short, quick offense. It's almost like I watch the Dolphins get the ball out quick too. Their offensive line's not very good, but they have a lot of tight ends that are good after the catch. So it's like, get the ball to them early. But then you have Metcalf and these weird hodgepodge of receivers that no one really knows. Calvin Austin's like 5'0". You have Roman Wilson, who makes an appearance every month. Other than that, it's like, who is the receivers on this team? Like, it doesn't make any sense, really. And Metcalf's not a guy who's going to burn you anymore. He's kind of just, every time Rodgers throws it deep, I'm like, okay, I guess it's Metcalf. He's going to be heavily covered. So hopefully it's a PI or something, because he's not going to get behind you anymore like he used to in Seattle. So it's just like the receivers don't really make sense. It's a very tight end heavy offense. I know Aaron loves his tight ends, but that's kind of run its course eventually. I mean, if it's just a tight end heavy, if you just like your tight ends, and eventually people are going to figure out, they don't have any good receivers. So it's just like keying on the tight ends. And then the
tight ends are good. None of them are great. Like I think Freiermuth is fine. He's a mid-level starter, as is Jonnu Smith.
Jonnu's fine.
Even Washington is such a gimmick. Like I understand that sometimes in the run game it's nice to have this 6'7" monster just blocking for you, but every time they throw in the ball, I kind of cringe. It feels like you're not going to get this reference, but Andre the Giant was this wrestler who is 7 feet tall. He toured all around the country in the 70s and 80s. And at the end of his career, he could barely stand up. So he'd either be in tag team matches where he could kind of just stand on the outside and come in once in a while, or he would wrestle but always be near the ropes so he could kind of lean on the ropes. That feels like the same vibes when I'm watching Washington try to run routes. Like he can't, but he's so much bigger than everyone else that they perceive the fact that maybe he can just like jump up a little bit, and he's 6'7" and he can just grab the ball out of the air. But it seems like the timing's always off and it just never works. I just think he should transition to maybe right tackle and he'd be decent.
It looks like they're throwing it to an offensive lineman. Every time I throw it to him, I'm like, it looks a little awkward. Him running, it looks like an offensive lineman running routes.
It's so awkward, and he's athletic for his size, but he's not athletic for a tight end.
Right,
but it seems like they're just forcing him to be in this position. I think, again, he would be a fine tackle or a guard or something. I think he should change his position, because right now it's getting a bit silly.
Yeah, but by the way, that's too much on the Steelers. Their defense has been the big fall off there. The offense, I didn't expect anything out of the offense, but the defense has been the complete opposite Megan Fox. They've fallen off a cliff.
So we did do our most likely Super Bowl matchups at the beginning of the year. I believe I picked Buffalo and Philly, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. Do you remember who you picked?
I picked Kansas City and Tampa. That was one I had.
Okay.
I also floated Detroit, but I was like, I want to go Tampa. I want to go Frisky. So that was one I posted on my actual offense page.
We're going to end with the most likely Super Bowl matchups, but I wanted to get to this one to round it all out.
Yeah.
My favorite category of them all, the Sunday ticket MVP. The guy that you are just so infatuated with that you can't keep your eyes off it. And I want to start with this one. I think I can land the plane. Let's see how I do.
Go ahead.
My answer is Bo Nix, and it's easily Bo Nix, and here's why. He's not the best quarterback whatsoever. But what makes Bo Nix so tantalizing on a Sunday afternoon is you get this dichotomy, this Jekyll and Hyde of Bo Nix, where he looks either like he is Mac Jones 2.0, this just like ridiculous, short, dinky quarterback that is throwing more often to the other team than his own. It just looks like he's not seeing the field well. It looks like his athleticism is not translating to a pro game. Or you get the second coming of John Elway, where he is slinging it off his back foot 60 yards downfield. He's doing no-look passes. He's putting perfect deep balls in the bucket. It's insane. I can't get enough of it. I don't know what end of the spectrum he's going to end up on. I don't know if he's going to be this guy that's kind of a fad and eventually he's going to be phased out. I don't know if he's going to be this all-pro eventually, this MVP caliber player that he shows at times. In the game just on Sunday, on the first drive, he throws the ball on the at least 5 yards behind Pat Bryant, and it gets picked by Twycrest Bridges, who's in coverage, but he's doing a terrible job of being in coverage. He got toasted on the play by Pat Bryant, and Nix just throws it right to him. He's like, here we go. The rest of the game, Bo Nix looked like the second coming of Tom Brady. It was insane watching it. It was pinpoint accuracy across the field, dots to Troy Franklin, dots to Cortland Sutton. It was the whole display all in one game. And that's why he's the Sunday ticket MVP, because you never know what you're going to get, which I enjoy. It's kind of like this food sampler. You never know if it's going to be chicken wings this week. You don't know if it's going to be steak. Regardless, you're going to be entertained. It's going to be good. You just don't know in which form or fashion it's going to be. They're winning games.
Yeah.
He's kind of contributing in every which way, whether it's helping them win said games, helping them lose said games. He's doing it all, regardless. I can't get enough of it, because I think this, you know what it's like? It's the 80-20 or the 90-10. And Bill Simmons championed this take in his book of basketball that he wrote, 16 years ago at this point, that there are these superstars that 80% of the time they're good and 20% they're awful. But it's so noticeable that you can't help but maybe think of them in a different light than a guy that's maybe 50-50. That's one night's good, one night's bad. It's almost harder to quantify these 80-20, these 90-10 guys. I don't know where we put Nix at this point. Maybe it's 75-25. I don't know where you want to put it. But regardless, Nix is the epitome football version of that guy. It is either borderline MVP caliber of play, or, oh my God, this guy is the drizzling you-know-what. I can't believe he is Sean Payton's quarterback of choice. That's why he's the Sunday ticket MVP.
Yeah, that 33-point fourth quarter against the Giants is doing a lot of heavy lifting right now in this award. Because those first three quarters, man, I was like, can I watch anybody else on Sunday ticket besides him? And then the fourth quarter was like, whoa, what is this? What am I watching right now? And same thing with the Eagles game. Those first few quarters in the Eagles game, I was like, this is just an awful watch. And then he gets down 17. It's like, oh my gosh, John Elway's here. I don't know how stable that is. The Jets game, I literally couldn't survive the whole game. It was so boring. And he played a large part. The
absolute worst.
It was the worst. So you never know what you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolates. I mean, you really don't know what you're going to get. But yeah, he's been fun. He's been very fun, really good at times. And then other times, as you mentioned, kind of unwatchable. The Chargers game, they win that game, by the way, if he makes one of those four throws that they had. So yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of interesting Bo Nix stuff. Mine was Baker. I think he's been the most exciting quarterback to watch through 8 weeks. I mean, talk about all the close games. When you think about Sunday ticket, you think about this late witching hour when all these games are coming down to the wire. It's like, okay, now let's go to the end of the Bucks whoever game, and you see these crazy games at the end of Sunday ticket. And it feels like every single week Baker's had some wow moment where it's like, oh my gosh, he did what? I'm talking about the 3rd and 13 scramble against the 49ers to win that game. I'm thinking about the Jets game where he ran 40 yards down the field, and then the very next time
he's had some really awesome runs that
he has been a lot of
wouldn't necessarily predict from a guy like Baker, but
right. Yeah, no, he's had a lot of awesome scrambles. And then I'm talking about the Seahawks game. That was one of the sneaky game of the years in that late afternoon. It was not the national window game. It was a late 425, a 405 game that was not the national.
The throwback uniforms in Seattle, sunny day, kind of an overcast. All the visuals, everything in that game was flawless.
It was flawless. He's chirping with fans before the game starts. It's a bunch of craziness. Him and Darnold are throwing haymakers at each other. It was essentially a flawless game. He had 4 incompletions and threw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. So those Sunday ticket games, that's when I talk about the opposite with the Titans, who can't make my window. The Bucs always make my window of Sunday ticket games. I'm almost always interested in what the Bucs are doing. If they're on, I'm finding a place for them in my quad box, my multi-view, or big screen, whatever it is. The one game he really didn't play well in was Monday Night Football against Detroit. So no Sunday ticket there.
He wasn't great against the Saints either, but he didn't need to be.
Yeah, that game was kind of out of reach. Nothing. Yeah, the Saints literally punted at like halftime. That game was over at halftime. So they kind of didn't have to do anything. But the Lions game, he was not great in, but that was not a Sunday ticket game. So he gets off the hook there for Sunday ticket MVP. So that was a primetime game, so everyone had to watch. The games where it's, hey, Sunday ticket, who's on? Bucs game's on? Okay, let me watch it. He's been awesome in those games. Seattle, San Francisco. He had a couple crazy plays in the Falcons game, week 1, at the end of that game to win that game and steal it late. So I think Baker's the answer here because he's just been super fun to watch. I mean, Bo Nix has been fun too. It's a very good answer by you, but he's been equally as what the heck am I watching? Get me off this channel.
Yeah, I had to zag. I knew where you'd go. I had to choose someone else. Obviously, Baker's been must-watch television.
He's been must-watch. By the way, Bo Nix has been must-watch TV and also get me off this channel TV. He's been both. He's been more must-watch TV in the fourth quarter, which is really good. Obviously, that's why Denver's 6-2. I think both of our picks this year, Denver and Tampa Bay, were picks to like, hey, they're going to really emerge like a sleeping giant. They're both 6-2, so we're both doing pretty good in that department. And by and large, it's because of the quarterbacks. Because, I mean, I know Tampa Bay is injured to you-know-what right now. They got a lot of injuries everywhere besides Baker. And then Bo Nix has these fourth quarter heroics, it seems like every week when he gets down 17 points. So those ones are both MVP-worthy Sunday ticket players.
Before this past week, I probably would have put the combo package of Jackson Dart and Scat in this category.
Oh,
just
course.
from the nonsense, the weird like frat bro energy that they possess, the following that they've amassed in such a quick amount of time. The fact that they took over the league, I like couldn't even fathom. And again, it felt like a Linsanity thing. Like it felt like it was just gonna drop off a cliff really quickly. Yeah, but. I'm sad it's over already, and not because of bad play.
Shout out to them. Unfortunately, by the way, the Giants are no longer making my quad boxes because, unfortunately, the Scatterboo. I'm no longer interested in the Giants without Neighbors and without Scatterboo. I'm sorry, I'm just not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. I really don't, but I do kind of blame myself for being a little bit low on the Chiefs earlier in the year, and that's our perfect segue to our finale here. The Super Bowl matchup that we're predicting right now. So we shared ours a few minutes ago on what we had at the beginning of the season. But at this current point, the way things currently stand, what do we think? Mike, start us off because yours doesn't differ that much.
I had the Chiefs and the Bucs before the year started. I'm sticking with the Chiefs. I think that they are, since Rashid Rice has come back, they are a well-oiled machine. I'm going to go away from the Bucs, not because of anything they did. I still love the Bucs. You know this. I'm going to go with the Rams. The Rams are a 5-2 team that should be 7-0. Quite frankly, they should be 7-0. The NFC is wide open, so you could pick anybody here, and I would have no gripes with it. The Rams have been really, really impressive to me. Their only 2 losses have been, first of all, an overtime loss where they take the ball out of Stafford's hands on 4th and an inch, and they lose to the Niners in overtime.
Can I just sum it up a little bit faster than you're about to?
Yeah,
Let's just sum it up in this. Their losses are because they couldn't block on kicks. That's literally their losses. And part of that was Josh kicking too low. Like his trajectory wasn't great either. But a big part of that was just for whatever reason, their field goal unit was getting torched up the middle, and it was leading to a ton of these blocked kicks. And they couldn't really survive in the Philly game. And then it also happened again in the Niners game. Like, I just can't believe that's how they lost. But God forbid that doesn't happen again. You're 100% right. They should be 7-0.
The Eagles game, they had not 1, but 2 kicks blocked in the last 5 minutes of the game. If any one of those kicks don't get blocked, they win the game over Philadelphia. My hunch is that if they were to play the Eagles again, especially in January, that wouldn't happen. I'm assuming they're not going to get another kick blocked, 2 more, because it took both kicks getting blocked. And I trust Stafford a little bit more. I trust Stafford and McVay more than I trust the Eagles with Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. For some reason, I couldn't think of Nick Sirianni's name. So I think if they were to play again, I would trust the Rams to get it done. But if you went with the Lions, the Bucs, the Eagles, the Packers, I wouldn't have any issues with any of those teams. I'm just going to trust McVay and Stafford, who I believe should be 7-0 right now. I mean, the one game they probably should have lost was the Colts game when Adonai Mitchell dropped the ball at the end zone. That was the one game they probably should have lost. So they had that one kind of go their way. But the other games, they should not have lost to San Francisco at all. I mean, Stafford was unbelievable in that game, and they took the ball out of his hands and gave it to Kyron Williams on 4th and an inch. And if they just don't do that, they win that game. And that's to go aside from the field goal unit stuff that they've had issues. But the Eagles game, too, they completely outplayed them, and then they lost that game, too. So I think if they were to play it again, I think the Rams would come out of the NFC, my pick today, with the health issues and everything else.
I had Chiefs-Eagles in a rematch that no one wants to see, but I think sometimes the annoying answer, the dreadful answer is the correct answer. I did put an asterisk. I want to mention the Rams because the Rams, the last 2 times they've played Philly, has outplayed them both times.
Both times in Philly.
The playoff game last year, they were the better team if they had some of their linemen that were out that day.
Yep.
If they just had an extra lineman and Stafford had another millisecond of time throughout that game,
they win.
They are easily beating Philly and might have won the Super Bowl. Who knows? But I thought they outplayed them. And this season, it wasn't even close. Like,
they completely outplayed them.
Easily Los Angeles was the better team
just
that afternoon. But
that was the only thing. Yeah, they couldn't.
Yeah, both in Philadelphia as well. So maybe the next time it could be in Los Angeles. The Rams have some semblance of home field, better than the Chargers anyway.
Right.
But right now, given that Puka's hurt, given that Stafford's old and always banged up, the back thing hasn't been a problem, but who knows when that can creep back up. It's an old man injury that one day he sleeps wrong and it throws everything off. I'm going to stay safe and pick the Eagles, but we both have the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs right now are my favorites. I think they just look the best. The AFC outside of them, Indy feels like a pumpkin. New England feels like a year before the year, perhaps.
Buffalo's got to get it going. But
Buffalo has to really get going, and Baltimore needs Lamar back before we even consider them in this category. So,
by the way, Buffalo went from 17-0 to fire everybody in 2 weeks. I think they're going to be somewhere in the middle, and they're going to get back to probably the divisional or the AFC title game. But I just think Kansas City is really more well-rounded, and probably will get home field again. I mean, they are 4-3 right now, so I guess I shouldn't say they are definitely. They're 5-3. They're not going to especially get home field because they still have Denver to deal with in their own division as far as getting the home field advantage. But if they were to beat Buffalo this week in Orchard Park, that would go a long way into getting possibly some tiebreakers. That would be much needed, and possibly a number 1 seed again.
Real quick, Tyler Shuck announced the Saints starter throughout the rest of the season. Does that impact anything you just said?
That impacts absolutely nothing that I just said, except for the Tankathon. So the Jets and Saints are going to have an interesting battle there. And don't forget about our Titans either. They're right there as well. But the Saints going
because we don't think anything of Shuck, but God forbid if he is decent. I mean, it's a change, right? So if he is decent, and they've been a little bit frisky in some of these games.
Yeah, they put him in the second half against the Buccaneers when they were down by 20 points, and it was essentially 7-on-7 drills, and he still was not really that impressive to me. And
I remember before the season, I wrote a few articles about how allegedly some of the people around that organization, including their fans, were kind of earmarking Arch to them if they could tank this year. They bring in Arch, of course. Archie, his grandfather, is like a Saints legend, one of the first like good Saints players.
Yes.
And then just being from the region in Louisiana. So that was something on the table. Now that Arch is kind of out, it's like Fernando Mendoza. Is that really the prize you want? Dante Moore, Ty Simpson,
Manoris Sellers.
It just seems less certain than this guy that seemed like teams were going to tank for. He's off the board. Now it's a big kind of who knows what. So
essentially it's a huge 9-week, showcase for Tyler Shuck. It's a big, he needs to play well or they might replace him again. So, the Saints are not making my quad box until they play the Dolphins in a game I unfortunately have to watch in Week 12.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it better than that, but that's it for this program today. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Follow the social. X versus Everyone is the hub right now for the Instagram content. We might make a separate Gurus feed. We were talking about that. We're going to try to get some of these clips up on TikTok eventually as well. I have some videos in the pipeline. I'm working on scripts right now. And while I'm working on scripts, I'm working on trying to edit some stuff. So at least the videos look nice, a little bit higher production than just our normal podcast where we're just shooting the you-know-what here. I don't know what's you can say on the FCC and non. We'll have to look that up. I should. I do have a degree in journalism. But yeah, so all that's in the pipeline. Tomorrow we'll be back with the Gurus on Reality. Another unfortunate episode of Survivor, another tribe swap. I'm excited to hear our thoughts on that. I'm sure we'll have some sports content down the pipe as well. We have so much right now, it's almost hard to condense and try to focus an episode on a particular topic. So we're almost too sportsed out in a way, but that means more opportunity for us. We'll have more stuff. We just got to figure out what people want. The Jays, who knows? That's been fun. We'll see how it goes tonight when there's a pivotal game 5. And then, of course, basketball is still underway. We'll do a check-in on the association in a few weeks.
Watch out for the Heat.
Mike, any final thoughts?
Watch out for the Heat. They're playing good basketball. We're only 1 week in, but we are the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. So,
yeah, the Celtics are a disaster, but
they are not good. Yeah, but there's a lot of season left. But we didn't think they'd be that good. So.
No, I thought they'd be better than this, though. I didn't think they'd be like literally losing games based off incompetence, off problems of the last few years. Where, look, they were always going to shoot a ton of threes. But with this personnel, I thought they maybe tone it back just a smidge. God forbid, I thought logically there. My fault.
And Joe Maz will figure it out. But 4 games in doesn't look great.
I hope so. But anyway, a lot of gurus will be on your feed shortly. Of course, I haven't plugged this yet, Mike. We have a Spotify feed that I plug on the Instagrams and whatnot, but I want to share that to our YouTube listeners. If you ever want to listen to us in the car, in the gym, on the toilet, whatever you want to do, we're there for your needs. So anyway, that's Mike Testa. I'm Xavier Aguiar. We are the Gurus, and we will see you next time.